Hi, I'm Mike Blume, and I'm continuing the discussion of partial preterism as opposed to full preterism. As a partial preterist, I'm explaining the reasons why I cannot accept full preterism. The major difference between full preterism and partial preterism, and every other belief system practically, is full preterists don't believe that this actual body is going to be changed and made immortal when the resurrection occurs, that there's not going to be a general resurrection in the future, that when you die, your resurrection occurs while this physical body stays in the ground, a spiritual body comes out of it and goes to heaven, and that's the resurrection. I ended off saying that full preterists, in order to believe that, must assume that Jesus Christ's physical body with which he resurrected was discarded after he ascended up into the clouds in Acts chapter 1, and he now no longer has a physical body. Well, that's an assumption. The Bible doesn't say it was discarded, but this, in my opinion, is the key of all of the differences between full preterism and all the other beliefs. These major differences are assumed. Partial preterism is looked upon by futurists as being error, but partial preterists look at full preterists as also being an error and having gone too far with a good thing. Nothing says Jesus' body was discarded. Why make a strong argument for full preterism by trying to argue whether or not Jesus has a physical body? You have to assume that he doesn't. The Bible doesn't say he doesn't. But these are all the differences between full preterism and partial preterism are issues where full preterism assumes things. For example, they say partial preterism is inconsistent preterism. And the reason they say that is because in Matthew 24, partial and full preterists agree that all means all. And this generation means this generation. And if that's the case, then why do partial preterists insist that 1 Thessalonians 4, where we'll be caught up to meet Christ in the air, wasn't also fulfilled in AD 70? If we believe Paul was using the words us as though he felt he was going to experience that. Well, when Jesus said this generation in Matthew 24, and he told the people, you are going to see these signs come to pass, full and partial preterists agree that that was talking about those actual people. But when 1 Thessalonians 4 uses the term us, as though we, which are alive and dead at the coming of the Lord, proves it was going to happen in Paul's lifetime, otherwise he wouldn't have included himself. That doesn't jive, because in 2 Corinthians chapter 5, the us is used, and we know it's not just talking about Paul and the people in his lifetime, it's talking about all believers. Let me read it in 2 Corinthians 5. For we know that if our earthly house of this tabernacle were dissolved, we have a building of God, an house not made with hands, eternal in the heavens. For in this we groan, earnestly desiring to be clothed upon with our house which is from heaven. If so be that being clothed we shall not be found naked. For we that are in this tabernacle do groan, being burdened, not for that we would be unclothed, but clothed upon, that mortality might be swallowed up of life. Now, full preterists will agree, the we there isn't limited to the people alive in that day when Paul wrote those words, Paul included. It's a general sweep of believers. So why do full preterists insist that 1 Thessalonians 4, when Paul said, we which are alive and remain shall be caught up together to meet him in the clouds, is only limited to Paul and the people alive in his day? That's inconsistent. And so it's so important for 1 Corinthians 15 to already be fulfilled. It must be true that Jesus discarded his body. But why base something on an assumption? So Jesus Christ is not sitting on a throne, actually and physically, full preterists will say. The Bible says in 1 Corinthians 15 that the Son of God must rule until all enemies are beneath his feet. Dispensationalists go wrong when they twist that. They don't consciously do this, but they propose that Jesus will rule after all enemies are put on his feet. And he can't be ruling now, because look at sin in the world. There's demons, there's devil. And they say, well, how could he be ruling? But it says he will rule until all enemies are put under his feet. not after all enemies are put under his feet, as though he can't be ruling now because there's enemies. But anyhow, I believe that there's an actual body sitting on a throne. If all enemies are now beneath his feet, he's no longer ruling. So Satan must be going to exist forever on earth, influencing men and influencing women in this earth, according to full preterists. This is another point we need to bring to the forefront. According to full preterism, there's no final judgment. The white throne judgment occurred in AD 70. And that means if there's no final judgment, Satan will always be influencing this world. Sin will always be influencing in this world. And the only victory we can get is when we die and go to heaven. And just keep our flesh under in the meantime and keep sin from dominating our lives. Now to me, that's a very weak cross of Jesus Christ, if that's all that the cross accomplished for us. Because, let me explain, Adam brought sin into this world. Sin brought death. And so, the last Adam, in my opinion, has conquered that and more than what Adam caused to be brought into being. In fact, what I mean by that is that Jesus Christ is going to answer everything Adam brought into the world, but he's going to take us even further than that. Now, if Adam brought sin and death into this world, and Jesus Christ cannot completely remove sin from this world that Adam let into it, but only for believers sin and death is dealt with, then Adam did a lot more destruction compared to the repair that Jesus Christ did. I believe that the cross is going to eradicate, obliterate the existence of sin when this thing is all over and the final judgment occurs. I believe Satan will not even influence the world anymore. He'll be gone from the picture. But full preterists believe he'll continue on forever. Sin will continue on forever. I want to ask each one of us, are we willing to accept the idea that the cross is that weak, that it can't completely undo what Adam did by way of what Adam allowed into this world and what he didn't? Adam brought sin into the world. He brought Satan into our world. He brought death. Satan was there, but when I mean Satan was brought into the world, I'm talking about having influence over man. Adam could have thrown him out of the garden, could have cast him out. It could have been dealt with. Sin never would have entered. Death never would have entered, and so forth and so on. And so Adam did something that the cross will never be able to remove. That full preterists say the way you see things in the world now is the way it's going to be forevermore. There's going to be no end. There will always be sinners born and sinners die, people saved amongst those sinners. Well, if that be the case, then the meek will never inherit the earth either. Jesus said the meek would inherit the earth. Now, he said, let his will be done in earth as it is in heaven. His will is never going to be done in earth as it is in heaven because sin was thrown out of heaven. It doesn't exist there. Satan doesn't influence there. He was cast out. And so, if his will is going to be done in heaven and in earth to the same degree, then full preterism can't be right. It just can't be right. You see, what is the case for the devil right now is always going to be the case for the devil, according to full preterism, running throughout the world, forever influencing men and women. It sees no end to this influence from Satan. Not only that, but sinners will never be removed from existence, according to full preterism. Right now, I agree, when we die, we are freed from sin. We were freed from sin by the cross. Our total life of sins in the past, it's all gone. And but I believe that the saints in heaven and the saints in earth are going to be joined together one day, and there'll be no more separation. Those who have died and gone on to be the Lord, they're out of this world. We're still in the same church. I don't believe we can pray to them or they can talk to us, but we're still in the same church. But I believe that's going to come together when Jesus Christ comes again. And so, all of these things need to be considered when we choose between what's right, partial preterism or full preterism. Let's continue.